Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. I am Anmol Dungana. I've been with AWS User Group Nepal for the last 1.5 years and working actively in the community. This webinar is brought to you by AWS User Group Nepal in association with Genese Academy and AWS Cloud Club TU. Our speaker today is Sushant Paudyal. He is the newest AWS ambassador from Nepal and the pre-sale solutions architect in Genese Solution. Uh, we now will be beginning the formal session, and after the formal session, we'll have a 15-minute Q&A at the end. So, Sunday, I pass on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anmol. Uh, Hello, all the participants. My name is Sushant Paudyal. I am, as Anmol introduced, an AWS ambassador and working as a solutions architect in Genese Solution. So today, uh, it's a warm-up. Today is a warm-up for our upcoming AWS Community Day. So Anmol, what is the date? I exactly kind of point it out.
It's on April 21st.
Yes. So in April 21st, we have our second AWS Community Day Nepal. So it is going to be held on Sunway College, I think. So you can check out our AWS community social media handles to identify the location, the dates, the plans and everything over there. So this is like a warm-up session. Anmol invited me to provide a small warm-up session on a topic, on any topic, so that we can, get pumped up for AWS Community Day that is upcoming. So I'm pretty excited. I'll be speaking over there as well on a bit complex topic called AWS Nitro. But today I'm going to talk about uh, a, a more simpler topic, that is how many different ways we can log into AWS and why we should know all the login methods. So uh, if I summarize this today's webinar, so today we will mostly be focusing on the why, not the how. I mean, you know how to log in by using one method or another, right? So it's yeah. I'm presuming most of you are from technical background, or even if you are not, then logging into some online SaaS portals is not a big deal for you, right? So we are not going to look into how we can log in by using method X than method Y. Rather, we would be more focusing on why, which login methods should we use at what situations, which would be the best login method, and in addition, why we should know each and every one of it. So I have presented uh, a very basic kind of slide. So today we are going to be following this slide, as well as I'm going to show you some live examples as well. So let's get started. Oh, sorry. So I hope my screen is visible, full screen. So is it, Anmol? Can you confirm?
Yes, it's visible.
Thank you. Okay. So today we are going to talk about exploring AWS login methods, and it is going to be focused on why, not how. So now there are so many ways to log into AWS. When we talk about AWS at a very basic level, it's like logging into Facebook. So when we are logging into Facebook, what we do is we go to facebook.com and then we put our username, password, and then we are logged into Facebook, right? So logging into AWS console, logging in through the web portal, it's the same thing. So we just go to AWS console.amazon.com or something like that. Then we are going to put our username, password, and then we are going to log into AWS. So once we log into AWS, we have a plethora of services. We have a whole different world inside there. We can run anything inside AWS, right? So um, I mean, in our previous talks also, we have talked about it a lot. We can, from a mere small WordPress website to large credit card processing systems, or even larger systems than that, international systems, all these business critical systems, these things can be hosted on AWS at the same place, right? So from a security standpoint, it is crucial that we need to understand how people can log into AWS, so that we totally understand people are logging in the right way, and we are not leaving any doors open, because login basically is like opening the door and going inside, right? So we need to know how many doors are there in our house, and we need to make sure that all the doors are locked and right people are entering through the right doors. So that's the concept over here. So now let's see, there are 6 login methods that I'm discussing today. So these 6 login methods include root login, IAM user login, identity center login, federated identity login, command line interface, builder ID. These are the 6 logins. So there are some variations into these logins inside these as well, but we are not going to go too deep since it's just a warm up. So I would like to start with the root login, the ultimate, the first thing, the first kind of login. It's the first get. So when we create an AWS account, uh, again taking the analogy from Facebook, when we create a Facebook account, we specify an email ID, right? So based and then we put a bunch of other information, but the most distinguishing uh, information is the email ID. The Facebook account is mapped to your email ID, right? Similarly, each AWS account is mapped to one email ID. So we are going to uh, you know a, a root login. When we do a root login, we are going to put that email address and a password associated with that, and then oh, sorry for that. So once we put our username and password, we can log in as the root user. So when you go to console.amazon.com, and once you find this page, from here you can select this option and do the root login. So now let's talk about something more important. What does AWS say about, what does AWS have to say about root login? So this is a public information that I extracted from Google, from Amazon official documentation. So it says, we strongly recommend that you don't use the root user for your everyday tasks. Safeguard your root user credentials and use them to perform the tasks that only the root user can perform. So what does this mean? This means that root user, a root, it means it has the power to do anything. A root user can uh, close your account. A root user has the ability to close the account. A root user has the ability to use anything in that account. So AWS doesn't recommend you to use your AWS console on a day-to-day basis using the root login. So what are the powers? What are some of the veto powers that root user has? So root user can change the account settings. So as I said, in order to change your email address that is tagged, your AWS account is tagged with an email ID. So in order to change that email ID, you need to log in as the root user. This is the door from where you need to enter to be able to do that. In order to change your account name, in order to change your root user password, obviously, right? So this is a very obvious thing. So to do these kind of things, you must log in as root user. Then you know, if you misplace any other credentials, I mean other login methods we are going to discuss later. So any other login methods, if you accidentally, let's say, forget passwords, or if there are any kind of hindrances in other login methods, then you come back to this root login method, you log in as root user and then fix those issues. Another is when you want to close your AWS account. So you cannot close your AWS account by logging in as any other kind of user. You need to log in as the root user. And there are a bunch of other things that that only root user can do. So I didn't include all of them because uh, they are a bit complex. So I am assuming there are a lot of people over there who are just getting started in AWS. That's why I just put some common from some very simple and easy to understand stuffs over there. There are a couple of other things that only a root login can do. So you can just go to this link and you can see all the things that a root login can do. So now, uh, if AWS doesn't recommend you to do your day-to-day activities by logging in as root, what does AWS expect you to do with those credentials? Well, honestly, AWS just recommends you to log those username and password inside a secure vault and never use it until and unless you really, really need it for these different use cases. So that is root. That is one way of logging in into your AWS account. Now, if we talk about the consequences, what happens if someone hijacks your domain or gets access to your root credentials? They have the power to do anything they want. They are going to misuse it. They are going to delete it. They are going to use it to ask you for money by encrypting all your information or whatever. I just forgot that term, but exact term for that. But they can do anything if they have the root credentials. So it is very, very important to secure your root credentials. So this is one way of logging in. The second way of logging in is IAM user login. So again, if you again go to console.aws.com, amazon.com, then there is another option. Second option is IAM user. So what is an IAM user? So IAM user are some users that you can create within an AWS account uh, from something called Identity and Access Management Console. So from there you can create multiple users in an account. So why IAM user when there is a perfectly good and working root user? So why IAM user? The answers are here. So first thing, AWS promotes principle of least privilege. So I mentioned earlier as well, in AWS you can do anything, right? Related to tech, obviously. So when you are building a website, let's say for example, then there are developers who require maybe access to your Git repositories in AWS. Then there are some other DevOps or cloud engineers who require access to your servers where you are pushing those codes, right? So in this scenario, you have the ability. So the cloud engineers, they don't really need to look into the code. For that, there are developers, and developers, they don't really need to worry about uh, deploying deployment servers and maintaining those deployment servers, right? So it is not necessary to give access to developers to those servers, right? So principle of least privilege says that in that case, just give developers the access to Git repository and just give the cloud engineers access to whatever the code is being deployed at. So in order to provide that principle of least privilege, we need to create separate users for these developers, separate users for these cloud engineers. And when there is a root login, there's only one root login which has full access of everything. So obviously, we need to have another mechanism for creating separate users, and this is IAM. So using IAM, we can provide the principle of least privilege. We can provide multiple users access. So development team, cloud team, maybe finance team. For billing, we only provide them least privilege access in the billing side of AWS only. So that way we can provide multiple user access, and obviously we will avoid credential sharing. So if there was only one credential, one username, one email ID, one password, and you were sharing that all around the company, then obviously the chances of your credentials getting leaked to outside world, to malicious actors, that is going to increase. So in order to avoid credential sharing, you need to have each and every individual need to have their individual login methods. So IAM facilitates all those stuffs compared to root login. So this is the second mechanism. Now, there's a little bit of drawback in these two mechanisms. So let's say you manage multiple AWS accounts. So you don't have one AWS account. So you have, let's say, 10 AWS accounts. Then each AWS account is tagged to an email ID. So what do you have? You have 10 different root logins. And in order to create IAM users as well, you need to go to each and every AWS account and then create an IAM user. So there are a lot of credentials if you are maintaining a lot of AWS accounts. So there is a third mechanism of logging into AWS that is called the IAM Identity Center. So this is like the best of both these mechanisms. So let's say if you are maintaining a lot of accounts in your organization, let's say you have separated maybe development account, then there's a staging. For staging purpose, there's a separate AWS account. For production, there's a separate account. For security, there's a separate account. So if you have multiple AWS accounts, like for example, I'm showing you the interface of Identity Center here, and I have 10 AWS accounts. Of course, I cannot show you more detailed insight, so I just showed you this picture. So if you have multiple AWS account, you don't want to have 10 different login methods, 10 different login credentials for 10 different accounts, right? So it would be better if you had one single login mechanism for these 10 different accounts. So this is what AWS Identity Center does. It was formerly called AWS Single Sign-On. So with one sign-in activity, you can sign into multiple AWS accounts at the same time. And this is the best of both. This is the best of both worlds. So your access is tagged to your email address. That happens in that, just like as it happens in root login, but then you don't have the root privileges. So you access it through AWS portal, and one credential is going to work for all the AWS accounts in an organization. So this is how you log in AWS Identity Center. Now, while I have explained three methods, you might be thinking, oh, there are, so sometimes things might go over your head if you are not experienced with these different ways of logging in, or with AWS as a whole. So I would just like to comfort you over here that if you are new to AWS and you are finding these things are going a bit difficult, or a bit a lot to chew, then definitely just keep a note of all these things, and start just do some Google searches on these things, and you are going to keep find you are going to understand this pretty soon. You can catch up pretty early, because cloud is overall a very easy concept, I would say. So cloud is not as difficult as on premises, is what I would say. And I definitely am confident that if it's going a bit way over your head, or you are finding it complex right now, just note this down, do some research, and you are going to just understand it in no time. So let me go to the fourth mechanism, that is federated identity. So we talked about three mechanisms. The fourth one is federated identity. So let me show you something. Let me show you. One second. Let me close this. Okay. So uh, let me open this. So this is my browser, Google Chrome browser, and this is my application section. From here I can open Google, Gmail, Google Drive, Docs, and everything, right? So what else can have I integrated over here? I have integrated AWS login as well over here. So this, if I click this, which I can't right now due to some confidentiality purposes, if I click this, then I will log into my AWS account, my company's AWS account, and I am able to do it via Google, right? So there's a federation. Using the Google credentials, I can log into AWS. So this is single sign-on, but using a third-party federation provider, which is Google in this case. So this is another method of how you can log into AWS. So sometimes in these in different companies, this is the practice they follow. They follow single sign-on, but they want a single sign-on from their standard maybe mail server, or sometimes from other platforms like Okta. They say Okta and these different platforms as well, right? So uh, very simple. Why federated identity is company might want to use a third party like Google Workspace. In this case, I showed you the demonstration. So they might want it to act as single sign-on source. So in that case, you will need to set up a federated identity. Again, how you can set this up? It's pretty easy. You just go to the documentations. There are a set of steps that we can follow through and do it. But how anyone can crack it down, but why we really need to think about it. So today it's more about why. How, if you want to know more about how we can configure this, you can always contact me or follow the documentations. So this is the fourth way. The fifth way is the command line interface. So uh command line interface is something like this. I would like to show you a little demo over here again. So let me stop the sharing and let me share my entire screen for once, right? So, oh, sorry. A lot of things popping up. Mm, give me a moment. Okay. So I think you can see my blank screen now. So if I open my terminal, so the command line login is like we log in through the command line from here, right? For that, we require, some access keys, secret access key. So we just say AWS configure. If I say AWS configure, I can put my access key over here, secret access key over here, which I've already kept. So then, region names and these different things. And then I can log in and access all the contents within AWS from this command line itself. For example, you might have heard about AWS S3, right? So if I do a AWS S3 list, what this command does is it lists all the S3 buckets that I have in my AWS account. So if I do this, then I can see a whole bunch of different uh, buckets over here. So this way I can access everything within AWS from here. And I would like to stress on one word, that is everything. Uh, so there's a difference between AWS logging in from AWS console and using AWS through this command line. So what the difference is that from AWS console, you cannot access all the facilities that you can access from terminal. So if you think about it, from AWS console, when you are creating a new server, a new EC2, a new, bucket, you are creating, doing whatever, you are just filling out some forms, right? You are filling out some forms and clicking some buttons, and based on that, you are getting the output. So that is how you are doing things in console. And in order to do that, AWS guys need to prepare all those forms and everything for you, and make things easy for you. They need to prepare the GUI for you. But AWS teams are working at such a pace that they have so many features developed for whose GUIs are not yet developed. So in that scenarios, you can only access those kind of services through command line interface. So when I say everything, I mean everything that is available in AWS that is accessible through command line interface. But through console, you might not get all the features. So that is about command line interface. And why would you use that? That is the first thing. Second thing, sorry, I missed. Second thing is you can create automation scripts. So your programs, your code, you might want to integrate login mechanisms within your code. You might want to use software development kits, SDKs. So in that scenario, you will require, credentials. You need to put credentials in your code, right? Obviously, I didn't mean that you will put credentials in code, but you need programmatic access is what I meant. So in order to do those kind of things, you will need to use AWS CLI. You will need to use the path of AWS CLI. So while doing all for all these different purposes, you need AWS CLI login. And then there's a sixth one called AWS Builder ID. So this is fairly something new, and I also just came to know about this. I had heard about this, but not really researched about it that much. But when I was preparing for, giving this webinar for you, I saw that there's something called AWS Builder ID in order to log into AWS as well. So when AWS has a whole ecosystem, right? So AWS has an AWS management console through which we can, launch different AWS services like servers, like buckets, like, so many things, right? But then there are other parts in the AWS ecosystem as well. Like for example, AWS Skill Builder. So I'd like to show something about AWS Skill Builder over here. Uh, to provide context on how you would need AWS Builder ID. So give me a moment. Okay. So now let me share my screen, this one. Okay. I hope you can see my screen. So for example, I'll open something called AWS Skill Builder. So this is a page, this is a portal from where you can learn everything about AWS. You will find tutorials, you will find, hands-on labs and these different things. Now, this is not purely AWS console, right? So this is something of a peripheral thing. This is independent of actual AWS. This is a learning portal, learning management system led, I would say, of AWS, right? So it is a part of AWS ecosystem, but you would not have to require, those kind of CLI, those kind of root login or AWS accounts in order to access these kind of peripheral stuffs, right? So let's say, for example, students might want to develop their skills in AWS skill builders rather than, going jumping directly into the AWS console. So in that scenario, you don't really require those AWS consoles. So how you can access these AWS peripherals is through AWS Builder ID. So you search you Builder ID in Google, you will find the right links to create your IDs, and from there you can actually create your AWS skill builder. And from skill builder, what you can do is you can, do these things like Cloud Quest. This is free, I think. So you can subscribe, you can, take the free courses in order to learn so many things about AWS. Like currently, I did some networking, I did some Cloud Quest, and I got some badge. Like I would like to show it to you uh, from my LinkedIn. So if you see here in my profile, this one, Cloud Quest Security. So this badge you will get by completing a course over here, AWS Cloud Quest Security. Like this is a networking course, right? I just opened a AWS Cloud Quest networking. So if you, let me sign in. For example, you can get this badge. Where are my badges? 1 second. Yes. So if you complete AWS Cloud Quest on Skill Builder, then you get this beautiful badge, AWS Cloud Quest networking badge. So these kind of learning stuff, you don't really require, AWS console itself, right? So for these things, AWS Builder ID is what is used. So there are a bunch of other stuffs where, AWS Builder ID comes in handy, but these are the 6 different mechanisms from which you can log in. Now, why is it important? Why did I tell you all these different methods? Is so that you can use the right login method. I still see so many people as a professional. Um, I talk with a lot of my customers, and most of my customers, they are quite often using this root login. They say, Susanji, I'm logging in using my email address and password, and then they are doing the root login, where AWS has clearly recommended that don't do that, create IAM users and do it, but they are doing it through root login. So as a cloud expert, as when you pursue your you know career in cloud, or whenever you are recommending, you will always need to recommend don't use root login. And then another part is, there are so many doors, you need to know how to lock all the doors. Like for example, let's say your AWS account got compromised recently, right? And you actually wanted a diagnosis of how the breach happened. That is number one. And number two is, you want to secure everything. So let's say your AWS account got compromised. What you did was, you changed the email password, the root login password, and you deleted all the IAM users. You did all that. You reset all the passwords in Identity Center. But what you forgot to do is, you forgot to delete the AWS command line interface credentials. Like for example, there's an AWS account, right? So let me again stop the share and show you one AWS account. So if we think about it, wait. Hmm. Oh, sorry, not this. And my password is this. So I'm logging into one of my AWS accounts. Just give me a moment. Okay. Now let me share my screen. Okay. So this is my AWS account. So if I go to IAM over here, if I go to IAM, there are 39 users in my AWS account, right? So let me see if I have my user. Okay, look at here. I have my user over here whose activity was 10 minutes ago. That was because I logged in through root. So I have this user with me in IAM, right? So I can log into my IAM console using this user. So even if I delete this user, so let's say I deleted this user because Sushant Paudyal is a bad person. Let's say, for example, Sushant Paudyal is a bad person, and my company decides to remove me by revoking my access from this IAM console. So what they decide to do is, they simply decide to delete this. So I will not delete it right now, but let's say they decide to delete it. And now they think that, okay, the Sushant Paudyal, the hacker, is gone now from our system because we have deleted him from the IAM console. So now we are secure. And then that evening, I shut down, terminate all the resources in the AWS console. And how do I do that? I what I will just I go through this AWS terminal and use my terminal access to actually terminate all their EC2 instances, let's say. So what did they forget? They forgot to delete my access keys. So although they deleted my IAM users, I still had the access through command line, and I could do any kind of malicious activities from here. So the point I'm trying to make is, you need to know all the login methods so that you can secure all the login methods. And you might have a false sense of security sometimes by closing one door, but if another door is open, then there's no point, right? So that is why I wanted to show you all the login methods, and I hope you enjoyed it. If again, I would like to reiterate that if all these different methods you have not explored, if you have not explored some of these methods, it might be a bit difficult for you to understand. In that scenario, you can always ask me. You can always check the documentation. So now, this is all the topic I wanted to cover today. So I would like to take some question and answers. As Anmol mentioned there, we can entertain that as well. So Anmol, over to you.
Yes, so we'll be opening the floor for Q&A session. You can just type your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and I'll give you permissions to speak as well. So we have another 5 minutes. We'll be closing the Q&A session in 5 minutes. We have one question in the Q&A session. Can you see that?
For a beginner to AWS, what resources and path do you refer? Go build your builder ID, and then you have a free AWS Cloud Quest in AWS Skill Builder. You will get a lot of hands-on labs over there. Start there, and then you can also aim for the cloud practitioner certification. So when you go with the cloud practitioner certification, you look at the syllabus of cloud practitioner certification. And the point is not to get the cloud practitioner certification. I mean, it's good to get it, but the point is you follow that syllabus, you follow that pathway to gain the knowledge. And cloud practitioner is for the basics, right? It covers the basics. So if you follow that path, then you can definitely uh, get the fundamentals of AWS right. And in addition, come to our user group meetups, come to our community days. All the like-minded AWS individuals are over there. You might even get job opportunities, or you can also, get people who can help you learn more about AWS. So second question, I would like to go there. Can we get this recording videos? Yes, you will get this recording videos in YouTube, right, Anmol? In our AWS User Group Nepal page.
Yes, right.
So there you will have it. Maybe you'll upload it by tomorrow, next tomorrow. So subscribe to that. Third thing is, how can we be hired? Again, as I mentioned, in order for you to be hired, you'll need to showcase that you have the skills. So you start with the pathway of learning AWS, join the community, come in our community meetups, and talk with people. Networking is everything. Just writing your CV and then applying, you will get, if you write your CV and you start applying, then who is going to notice you is HR. HR is going to notice you, and HR are not AWS experts, right? So what you need to do is you need to join these kind of communities, get with the like-minded people, talk with the technical people, and then you will see opportunities from there. So that's the key to getting to the right place and working with the right people. So that is what I all I have to say about how we can be hired. So you can clear this on more. Another is, how can we fill up billing information? So billing information in, as in what? I would like a bit more context on this. Okay, so you can write down the AWS billing information, more context on that one, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. So another is, can we please share your AWS journey from the beginning? So I think, Anmol, there is a video of my AWS journey in user group Nepal, I think, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I will have to check like what
If
there
it's
should be.
there,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's there, then that's good. If it's not there, then yeah, it's a long journey, right? So I'll need another 1 hour to explain it. So I think we will definitely put this as a topic for our webinar as well.
Yeah,
So just
that's
to
for the
summarize,
next webinar. Like,
yes, just to summarize, I started from your phase. I had no idea about AWS, and I was just attending one random webinar, and I got fascinated with AWS. And then, I kept on going and getting fascinated and, enjoying the journey. And that is how I have reached here, and there's still a long way to go. I'm not a successful person to tell AWS journey right now. Maybe when I'll be 40 or 50 years old, then then I might have something to say. But currently, I'm also in my path. So that's all I have to say for now. So for creating builder ID, it is redirecting to billing information. Oh, okay. So billing information as in credit cards, AWS. So I mentioned you, right? So AWS, I also didn't know much about this builder ID. So if it's asking for card details and everything, then one second. To sign in, you need your email address and additional verification. Create a builder ID, password, trusted device. Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry about this. I will need to I'll need to create my own builder ID, follow a process, and stay tuned. I will find answer to this and maybe post in the user group Nepal event Facebook page. Okay. So uh, how we can do this? From where can we register for meetup? So this question is for Anmol.
So we are we are available on all platforms, on all socials. We have our own meetup page from where you can register from our all events. We update everything on there. You can, for starters, you can just go on LinkedIn and search AWS User Group Nepal, follow us there, and you will get each and every update, like Sushant I said, on there.
Yes, so Simran, I think you can do one thing. You can share those links right now in the message box or something like that. So, yeah, Simran, can you do that for me? Okay, so let's move on to questions while Simran does it in the background. And what about coming technology Devin? Will it be taking jobs of AWS? Uh, This is a philosophical question that we are going to discuss on a separate environment in a separate mood. Okay. So right now I'm enjoying AWS, and if someone else takes my job because they can do it better than me, then there's nothing I can do. So how to become AWS community builder? Okay. So AWS Community Builder applications open every once in a year. So if you go to AWS Community Builders page and if you just sign up over there, then they are going to put you in a wait list. And when the application opens up, you will be notified in the email. So in order to be an AWS community builder, you need to be active in the community a little bit. So you need to have your LinkedIn. You need to be active on your LinkedIn. You need to write blogs specially, and you need to write specialized blogs. Like let's say, if you want to be a community builder in the domain of security, then you need to write security related blogs like the one I mentioned today. You need to write a bit more complex, a bit more technical blogs related to maybe IAM, identity center, security groups and all these things. So you need to be frequent in the community, be active and post your blogs. That is the most important thing. And when the application opens, apply for it, and hopefully you will be a community builder. So that's how it works.
So that was the last question for today. Yeah,
Great.
so we'll be wrapping up. Thank you everyone for joining in. And Simran has also put our socials on the chat as well. You can, click on it and follow us and stay tuned for future
Yes.
activities.
One last thing I would like to mention is AWS community. User Group Nepal, these things are not related to any corporations. So yes, we are professionals. We work. I work in Genese right now. Anmol does too. Someone else works somewhere else. But AWS community is it's like a non-profit organization. So it's purely the motive of AWS community is to empower the people for the future. Those who are new to AWS. So that is our intention, and we always, that's why we invite you to come to our community. We don't want we are not we don't want more likes in Facebook. We don't want more subscribers in YouTube. That is not the goal when we ask you to like or subscribe or these kind of things. What we are doing is we are trying to collect the people who are who share the same interest, and the interest is in AWS. And our goal is, someone helped me to excel in AWS, and that is what the law of nature is. I feel responsible to help someone else excel in the cloud, and that is the whole purpose of this community. So I would request everyone to get connected in AWS user group and try to get connected.
All right, Sushant bhai. Thank you everyone for joining in. This is a wrap up. We'll be catching you soon with another webinar and see you all at the AWS Community Day Nepal event on April 21st. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.